going to show my 5 audience members. Okay, and my videographer. Thank you. Okay, thank you for coming today. We're going to talk about overcoming communication hurdles in marriage. There are obviously many of them, as you know, if you're married. So let's see here. So when you first get married, you don't really think about communication issues until you're living in them. Then you really know they're there. But bad communication skills on either side could cause problems. But if you're prepared for it in advance, then you can get through it. So to know how to communicate effectively with someone, you kind of have to understand how they operate, how they think. So men and women in general think differently. I'm sure we're all aware of that. So Mark Gungor, he's a marriage expert and comedian, which I really like the two together. And he says that understanding how someone thinks differently than you can help in the process of communicating. Because when you understand why someone does what they do, you feel less threatened. Okay. So men, this is in general, this is not to say that every man is like this, but their brains are kind of made up of a million little boxes. And they can only be in one box at a time. They're talking about the mother-in-law, they're talking about the mother-in-law. They can't switch over to what's for dinner. You know, they got to close that box and then open the next box. And they also have a box called the nothing box. And the nothing box is where they go to de-stress, calm down. They don't want to think, they don't think about anything. They just, if they're playing games on their phone, their brain's just like totally relaxed. Women don't have that. Like, we don't even know what a nothing box looks like. Okay. Can you hand me that bag over there? The black bag? Yep. I forgot to bring it over here. Thank you. In this bag, I have what a woman's brain looks like. Okay. That right there. That's what a woman's brain looks like. It's a big mess. Okay? It's a ball of all these wires. Their emotional energy, that's what drives them. When there's an emotion attached to an event or a category, you can remember it longer. Like if your husband texts you and says, "Is it my day to pick up the kids?" And your brain goes back to 2 years ago when it was his turn and he forgot to pick them up and you both got home and there's no kids. So he didn't even remember that. But the woman can remember because it's attached to an emotion. So now that we know how men and women's brains work differently, we can go on to love languages. And this is pretty interesting. It's important. Dr. Gary Chapman wrote a book, and he says that people who genuinely love each other, if they know about the other's love language, they can have a great marriage. And you can go to the website, it's 5lovelanguages.com, and you can take this little quiz, and it'll tell you what your love language is. And that's pretty neat. So the first love language is quality time. This is when you have one-on-one with your spouse. There's no kids around, there's no TV, cell phones. You're just sitting together, taking a walk, whatever it is. You're just focused on each other. So for someone who has quality time as their love language, if you are talking to them while you're distracted or you're kind of pseudo-listening, that could really hurt them inside. Words of affirmation, this is my husband's love language. He likes it when I tell him, "Good job, honey, you're doing a great job. You're such a good dad. I love you so much." It really builds him up. He likes to hear it. So if you're insulting your spouse and putting them down all the time, that could do a lot of damage. Receiving gifts, everybody likes gifts. But for the person whose love language is receiving gifts, it's not a materialistic thing. It's they thought of me throughout the day and they got me something. But it's the thought that counts, basically. So if you don't get them a birthday present, you forget your anniversary, or you kind of just like go buy them a gift card or something, that could hurt them. Acts of service, this is my love language. So my husband can tell me he loves me all day long or buy me whatever, but when I open the dishwasher and I realize that he already did the dishes, I'm like, oh, he loves me so much. So laziness or slacking off, him seeing me work my butt off and him sitting around doing nothing, that hurts. It makes me feel like he doesn't love me. Physical touch, it's not really about what goes on in the bedroom. It could be a long hug after a hard day or holding hands, something like that. Physical abuse, obviously not good for anyone, but for someone whose love language is physical touch, it could cause a lot of confusion and hurt. So now that we've gone over the love languages, we're going to discuss next some communication hurdles that you could come into contact with in your marriage. The Gottman Institute describes the 4 horsemen. These are the deadly communication styles in marriage: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So criticizing is a direct sabotage of your partner, putting them down, ripping them apart inside. You're constantly at them. They can't do anything right. You know, there's such a waste of time. They're a loser or anything, stuff like that. So instead of attacking them like, you always do this or you never do that, instead you could say, when you do that, it makes me feel this way. Or I feel like when you do this, it does this. So turning it around and using the word I instead of the word you to tell them how you feel about what they're doing is a good way to fix that. And the goal is to be teammates, not to attack your team member. Contempt is the worst of the 4 horsemen. It's basically bullying. You're just being mean. You don't want them to think good about themselves. You're just disgusted with them. You have a lot of resentment, and it's a buildup of negative thoughts and feelings over time. So this one's hard to move past, but to attempt to move past it, if you can sit with each other and focus on the past, times that we're happy, and reminisce, sometimes those feelings of love and fondness may rekindle, but both people have to be willing to do it. Defensiveness is when you feel like you're being attacked. You make up any excuse to show the person you're right. You think you're being blamed unfairly or ambushed. So when this happens, you have to take ownership for something. You know, whether it be, we're late, you always make me late. You can say, well, I'm sorry, I didn't realize what time it was. Next time, let's set an alarm or something like that. Even if it's only partial, you have to take, because if your partner's feeling this way, then obviously there's something you both have to try to do to make it better. Stonewalling is basically the silent treatment. The person's shut down, they're numb, they don't want to deal with it anymore. The person just retreats, kind of goes away. And a lot of people do this, and when you're in the moment, you feel like that's the best thing to do, but you're just going to come back to the problem again. And if you don't talk about it, it's not going to go away. And you don't always have to address the problem right then at that moment. You can say, I'm feeling really crazy right now. Can we talk about this later after dinner so I can have some time to think? So you don't have to discuss it then, but you have to give some kind of response. So let's see what we have here. We discussed how men and women think differently. We've gone over love languages, hurdles, how to overcome them. I hope that the information has been useful or will be useful. And may you communicate and live happily ever after. Thank you.